Hi, Karen. Thank you so
Hi,
much for
Swati.
joining me. I'm very
Thank you for
excited about
ask,
our conversation.
Thank you so much for asking me to join you. So it's just a lot of fun to talk to you, and it's an honor to be asked to be on your program, Leadership with Purpose. So thank you.
Thank you so much. The honor is totally mine, and I'm very excited. Let's jump right in.
Okay.
So, Karen, one of the things I love most about the podcast is how people find their way, right? The unexpected turns, the bold leaps, the quiet persistence. And you have had such a rich and dynamic journey. Can you take us back to the beginning where it all started from?
So yes, I love to go back to the beginning because I mean everybody has a story, right, Swati?
Right. Absolutely.
And I think
Stories are beautiful.
yeah, and what makes them interesting, I think people sometimes want to talk about where they're at, and
Right.
I think it's always interesting to know where that story began,
Absolutely.
and that helps craft why they're different along the way. And also sometimes I think we're finding, and perhaps that's because I'm filled with wisdom as I've gained knowledge and grown older over the years, that pausing to reflect on the things that I liked when I was a much younger Karen really
Mhm.
makes a difference for where I am now. And so I like to go back to the very beginning. You know, I was born in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm very proud of that. You can ask anybody. I wish we could have a National Postal Forum someday in Boston. So we'll see. But I grew up there and I lived in the suburbs, and I went to the same school system my whole life.
Mhm.
And I never we just had a great childhood, a great neighborhood to grow up in. I'm the oldest of five children. I have four younger brothers. And I was always a little bit of the one that had to be in charge, as the oldest often are. And when you have brothers, somebody's got to be in charge, right? So,
Absolutely.
but from a very young age, I loved education. I loved going to school. It was my favorite time of the year was September. It still is. I loved just the whole organization of the desks lined up and what we were learning. And I just couldn't get enough of it. I loved reading. I was always in the library, and I wanted to be a teacher. That's what I wanted. I
Mhm.
emulated my teachers. I babysat for them. I went to their weddings. I just thought that this was a great world where everybody could be curious all the time, and
Right.
asking why was a-okay, right?
Mhm.
And I certainly like the fun part too. The playground was a-okay too. So that's kind of how it all started for me, was this ability to try to keep asking why, and looking at education as a real opportunity to engage with other people. It was always, it's a little bit more serious than always being the party person, I
Right.
think, but I like to be that too sometimes.
Mhm.
So I used to organize when I was in middle school. I organized a summer camp for all the kids in my neighborhood. Everybody had a large family, and I would have school, summer school, in the summertime in our
Oh,
backyard.
wow.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I spelling bees. You could get prizes. We had science. We had going into the woods and exploring. And parents would send their kids over. I would ring a bell, totally serious, and school would start. My brothers hated it. They
Oh,
still
that's
talk
amazing.
about it.
Yeah.
Why were you our sister? Because my mother, of course, thought it was a great idea that I was, giving them spelling bees in the backyard. But that's kind of how it went for me. And
Uh-huh.
so organizing things, moving into a leadership role, whether it was in junior high and then certainly moving into high school, I stayed on that same path. And I ran my student government. I organized dances. I did everything that allowed us all to be able to be together in those organized settings. And I always tried to also learn from others, and not just stay in my own lane. I just always thought it was just always so much more fun to have friends from lots of different groups, rather than just a few from one. How's that?
That's
So
beautiful. And I really love that part, right? That you love learning, being a lifelong learner. I think that's something that I value deeply. And I think that's basically pushes me forward as well, right? There's always something to learn. There's always something to explore and find out. And so often, if you learn it and you'll progress, and if you fail, you learn more, right? And it's just an amazing world, and your mind stays curious, and yeah, you push yourself forward.
I love that, thinking about being a lifelong long learner, because that
Yeah,
is what matters the most. And it also allows you to get to meet other people.
right.
Because if you're curious about everything that's out there as to, why something is a certain way, or why did somebody do something that way, it allows your mind to think a little differently too, and not just always think that it has to be a certain way. And certainly, as I look at my life, it's allowing myself to make change and take risks. Those are part of lifelong learning too. So
Absolutely, absolutely. There's no growth without risks and change, right? It has to be. It is the driving force of everything, every growth, right?
yeah,
We don't, and so much of it is in the reflection, right? When we reach a position we do, it's easy to grasp for it and just get so involved in it. But as you were saying, it's the when you reflect on the journey, you realize that it's been a journey, right? And every moment of time, the risks, the turns, the twist, the downfall, and just coming back up, right? The resilience is amazing, and that's part of the story. That's always part
I
of the
love
story.
I love how you said that though. That was beautiful, because it's the coming back up piece, isn't it?
Right.
Because
Absolutely.
sometimes, right, we take risks, and we not because we want to, but because our hands are
We are
forced.
risk takers, right? Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And then, I always heard too, at least when I remember one time when I was down there, down waiting to come back up again, that if you take risks, that world of people that take risks and make change are generally happier with their
Yeah.
life at the end. Um, but it's hard to tell yourself that, right? When you're trying to climb out of the hole and get to that light at the end of the tunnel, and know that it's going to be okay.
It's very hard, right? And everybody's been there, right? Life is never a smooth road for anybody, right? Anybody who's in a leadership position and going as long as you've been going, right? So often than not, we rise, but we fall, right? And there are bumps in the road, and it takes a lot to pull that out to come back up, right? Every single time, it takes more and more. So while we're here, I love to learn about your support structure. Like, what does your support structure look like? What are the values that you drive from within you when you have to pull yourself back up?
So resiliency, definitely, that you mentioned, that certainly helps, a lot. And also, my biggest thing for me is, I used to run in the old days, and then I hurt my knee. Running here, I moved to DC, and probably in
Mm.
the first year, I was, running down through the locks and the canal here, and
Oh,
that was it. So now I walk. I learned that, all right, if I can't run, I'll walk. But that's my zen. That's how I allow myself to think, to get outside. I don't take my phone with me. I don't. I'm really better even walking solo, because that is how we give ourselves some time away from all of the stuff that's coming at us. So that's what I do to be able to try to give myself the strength that I need. I do rely a lot on my kids. I have two
mhm.
children, they're millennials, but I do rely upon them for just reassurance sometimes that it's going to be okay. And then certainly friends. And many of my friends are from the mailing industry,
That's
which
awesome.
we
Yeah.
we we just there's just, it's a huge industry that we are part of, the mailing and shipping industry. But old friends, I have friends from elementary school too that I can call upon. You just need some positive words. But a lot of my a lot of the things that I am help me now as I make some of these changes are just this reassurance that it's going to be okay, that this is not the worst thing that's ever happened to you. You've been through worse, maybe
Right.
you thought, but you're going to be okay. And I think that's something that comes with age and with wisdom too. That things will all work out. Sure, there's some really bad things that aren't going to change, and they're going to be life changing for you. I've had that happen. So, but you have to figure out that it's best to just kind of keep going, because you're going to miss the ride along the way, and we're not here forever, right?
Right.
So we have a very precious amount of time actually at the end of the day on this earth. So
That's
so
amazing.
resiliency is the most important thing to me, is figuring out how to bounce back.
Absolutely. And I love that. And, just reflecting on that, I feel like, it's always when things are hard, you come back up, you build a support structure, you learn more. But I think over a period of time, you build that muscle of resilience, right? That you truly never defeated until you keep going, right? And the next road to success is closer than you think, because when you come back up, you come back up with a greater force. You learn, you reflect on the failures, you come back up with a greater force. And that's just amazing, right? And
Yeah.
you feel it in your body, you feel it in yourself, right? And it grows over a period of time with new experiences.
You do feel it, don't you, Swati? I mean,
I do.
that's so beautiful how you said it, because I know those moments when,
Yes,
oh, whoa,
absolutely.
something's happening, and that, you talk about that weight off your shoulder, but
Mhm.
you do feel like this little tingling that's going on, and you think, I think something's happening.
Right.
I think I'm figuring this out.
Hmm.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. So you have a lovely way with words.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
So do you.
You're welcome. So.
So, how did you find your way into the mailing industry?
Well, so when I wanted to be a teacher, right? That's
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to be. That was what I was going after. My father said to me, "Here's the U.S. News and World Report, which was a weekly magazine that was published nationally years ago." And he showed me the cover, and it said "Teacher Glut." And he said, "You're not going to college. This is my junior year of college. You're not going to college to become a teacher." What? So I had to shift my mind. And I studied political science, thinking, oh, well, I was the age of Watergate and
Mhm.
that time period, and I was fascinated with all of it. And then I switched over to social work. So, I mean, my father probably thinks in hindsight, we should have allowed her to be a teacher instead of making her think about social work. So I pursued a degree in social work, and about a month from the time I was getting ready to graduate from college, my advisor sat me down and said, "I don't want you to become a social worker. Okay. Your heart is too big. You're going to get hurt. I want you to take your people skills, all of the things that you learn as a social work major, and I want you, the art of listening, the just the valuing the human mind. Take those skills and go into business.
Oh,
Go into
wow.
the business world, and I suggest you go into sales." So I did. And at the time, it's crying tears. Oh my gosh, I've got a degree in social work. Everyone else is getting their masters, all my friends, and I'm the loser that's saying, "Yeah, I'm not going to go, not going to do that. I've been told not to." They're like, "Why? It's not going to work for me." So I went out and I got a job in sales, and I think in about 4 years, I had three different jobs, because sales is funny. You start to sell, and then you sell to somebody who says, "Why don't you come to sell for us?" And you go, "Okay, whatever. I'm young. I'll figure this out." So I just kind of kept moving into sales positions. And finally, I moved into a job where I was recruited by one of the large advertising agencies that did direct marketing in Boston, a company called Epsilon. And I worked selling MCI, which is the long distance phone service that used to be out there, that
Yeah.
allowed for the breakup of Ma Bell. My whole family worked for Ma Bell, so I had was doing something that wasn't positive. That I was actually helping the MCI advance itself with its direct mail campaigns. But that was my account, was MCI. I worked at Epsilon, and I fell in love with mail production. Every Friday night, putting millions of pieces of mail to bed, watching on Monday morning the truck leave to go to the letter shop and the mail shop, and also just then starting to understand the whole thing with response rates, and
Hmm.
what color a logo should be to make it work. What did people respond to? What was the offer? What could we give one part of the country versus another? All the testing. And that was my first foray into direct mail. And I stayed at Epsilon for a couple of years. One time we had an account, we had a job we were doing that was a 5-way match. That meant, there's 5 different pieces of personalized um, components coming together. And we couldn't find a letter shop that understood that they all needed to match. So the long and short of it is that I was stuffing at my desk a lot, envelopes, and I had my colleagues all stuffing. And finally, my boss said, "How about if we give you some tables and you set yourself up and run your own business?" And
Oh, wow.
that's
That's how
kind of how it
fulfilling.
all came to be. Yeah, I think he wanted to get rid of me. I was driving him crazy. So
I don't think so. I think he saw a lot of potential in you. And oh, please go on.
well, it
Yeah.
was a lot of fun. And they gave me tables, and I set myself up, and I worked. I had a 2-family home. I was married at the time, and I had 2-family home in Boston, and I would stay up all night, stuffing envelopes, licking labels. Because think about this, I didn't have the money to buy machinery, so
Right.
everything was manual. Licking stamps, because back then stamps didn't have the
Okay.
pre-moistened stamps.
Right.
You had to have that little sponge thing and wet them. Licking them with my tongue until I said, "I think this is doing something to my brain." And then packing up the bags of mail and throwing them out the window of my 2-family onto the driveway, loading up the Volkswagen Rabbit that was my truck at the time, and taking off to the local post office. So it didn't take long until the neighbors weren't happy that I had, tractor trailer trucks arriving with materials. And, this is back years ago. So people didn't run businesses in their home.
Hmm.
And it wasn't a cool thing to do. And they eventually had the town manager come and call on me, the building manager, and tell me that I needed to leave and to get a building. And so you scrape together whatever pennies you have, right? And I went and rented space. And the local post office said to me, "You're too big for us now." So I started going to Boston. So it
Wow.
all, people force your hand on how to make those things happen. And at the
Mhm.
time, again, you're nervous. How am I going to do this? I'm starting a business. I'm, 27, 28 years old. I have no money to do this because I'm on my own doing it, right? It's not like you have somebody that's giving you a venture
Funding you.
capital position.
Right.
So the partnership with the Postal Service was one of the biggest pieces for me. That they just really believed in what I was doing and gave me the necessary skills that I needed to understand how to deliver mail to the post office to be accepted. And back then, you could take mail up to 11 o'clock at night. So that was super helpful for me because I started inviting people into my 2-family, and I had college students. You could do your laundry for free if you stuff some envelopes. Uh,
Oh, very interesting. Very creative.
so the building that we moved into was pretty bad. I met up with my UPS driver recently. That used to come to that facility, and he's like, "Karen, I remember that loading dock. Used to just bump the truck, and the whole dock would go like this."
Oh,
We would load the UPS truck together. I would haul the mail to the post office multiple times during the day because, again, the critical mail entry time was up at 11 o'clock at night. And then I just brought high school kids in, a lot of college kids. My mom and my sister-in-law worked for a while, and eventually you start a business. You become legit, right? And you're stuffing envelopes, you're bringing in bigger customers, you're starting to buy machinery that your customers are encouraging. And so taking that lead with them, and they really got into it. I had customers that used to say, "Can I come over on Friday afternoon on my way home and just, stuff a few envelopes, relax a little bit?" It wasn't relaxing, I promise you. Production is stressful, right? You
right.
know. So that's kind of how it grew. And then we just kept buying. My ex-husband came in to work with me, and he managed the finances, which was wonderful because I'm more oriented to being with the customers than the finance piece of it. So and he managed the lawyers and all the administrative part of running a business and helping it grow. So we together as a team built that business, and I did that for almost 30 years outside of Boston. So it was great. I mean, what a great place to run a business, right?
Absolutely.
So
And Karen, I have to tell you that me and my husband run this business as well. And I'm a customer facing person. I interact with customers and I'm the CEO. He's the COO. He does finance and the operational part of our business. We're a great team. It works well because both of our strengths are very different. But I had to just say that it's just like yours. Yeah, I manage the customer sales and everything else, customers, and he manages all the operations, finance, legal
That
stuff.
is so interesting, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that because there was a time when I saw it the opposite way,
Uh-huh.
that the male figure was running the business, and then the female would come in and say, "I can do the finances, I'll take care of the payroll and
Right.
everything else." So, but I've seen a big switch in that personally, with other women that I've spoken to, if they're working with their partner, how that is.
Right.
So it does. Yeah, interesting. I didn't realize that. That's cool. How long
Yeah.
have you been in business together?
We've been in business together last 2 years.
Okay.
We've actually studied together. We did education together, a master's in India together. We came to US together, got married, had a kid. And then since then we've been doing different jobs. But when the business opportunity came in and I was coming in as a CEO, I really and I had to really pull him in.
Yeah.
It really worked well for us because I think I needed a partner that I can trust 100% and who can just, right, like you can be 100% off things because you know they're doing the best and it's both of your business. So they invested as much as you.
Yeah. How old is your child?
8. My
8.
daughter's
Okay.
8. Yes.
So it does make a big difference for the being able to balance the work life piece, especially if you have a partner that is willing to pick the kids up at school, be
Absolutely.
home, and so you understand. And I have a tendency to really want to work a lot.
Yeah.
It's just kind of the way I've been since I was little, and I I would stay all night. So having the going home for my kids and my family was always an important piece. I was known to, put the trench coat on over my pajamas and go back to work at night. Once I was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and the police car was going around the
Yeah.
business park where my building was, and he pulled me over because he saw me coming out of the building, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm in my trench coat with my pajamas and my slippers on. I hope he doesn't make me get out of the car. But he goes, I just want to know, what were you doing in that building this late by yourself? And I said, oh, I was just working.
Oh, you and I are saying I love working too. It actually, work has been my safe haven for so long, right? This is a place I go to and I can work day and night and just work all the time. And but I'm glad that I have a family and a kid to go back to who say, "Hey, I'm here. You can't just be working all the time. I need attention."
It is interesting, isn't it, that you feel that way, and I do too. Is that is work is what brings me. It just brings me a sense of purpose. It gives
Right.
me my direction, and I mean, it's not always perfect. I ran a production company. We're producing meal. There's mistakes. There are things that go wrong. There are employees that don't show up to work,
Right.
and at the end of the day, it's hard because it stops with you, right?
Mhm.
But the work has always been what has fueled my passion and my ability to get out of bed in the morning.
That's
Yeah,
amazing. I love
I
that.
know. I know. I like that too, that we share that together. So that's cool.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, what led you to shift towards the public sector?
So I had a change in my marriage,
Uh-huh.
and my hand was forced into selling the business. I promise you, I loved my business. It was a child. They say when you have a business, it never grows up. It
Yep.
always stays an infant, needing its nurturing. And I felt that way, but I loved that. I mean, it was when you have your own business, you can solve every problem that happens. You
Right.
can help your employees see growth in what they're doing when they come to work every day. And in the production world, I used to say that, we're all like spokes on a big wheel, on a bicycle wheel.
Mhm.
And every one of those spokes has to be working today, I'd say. We can't have anybody not in sync because we won't get the job done by the end of the day. And I was fortunate that the people that came to work for me really shared that passion for feeling good at the end of the day. I had a lot of people that they were first generation in the United States,
Mhm.
that this was their first entry into our country. We celebrated when they became citizens. We had food was always key. So
Absolutely.
I
Always.
loved. You always had to have ice cream and or popsicles at least, right? And lots of candy in the freezer. But they showed up for work because their work ethic was incredibly strong, and they understood the importance of being part of a team and being satisfied, especially on a Friday night late, that the truck had left for the post office with all the jobs done. So again, I had to sell the business for that reason of the change. And I was able to sell it to three brothers that were friends of mine. And they lived in the next town, or their business was in the next town. It'd been their dad's business, so second generation. And they absorbed all of our employees, which was what was
Oh,
important to
wow.
me, all of the benefits that we had in all of our customers. It was a wonderful synergy that we were able to create. During that time, I had also been asked to join the Smithsonian, I had a museum advisory
Mhm.
council, and I was industry people. And so I was going down to the museum from Boston to DC for these meetings and starting to, just really what the first time I walked into the Postal Museum. Have you ever been to the Postal Museum, Swati?
I have not, Karen.
So when you come to DC next,
Uh-huh.
you let me know. I'm going to give you a tour, okay?
I would love that, and I will take you up on that.
Yeah, bring anybody you want with you. With you.
Thank
I
you.
mean it. I'm really happy to do that. I love to do that. So, but I remember being there and realizing, where's our story? Where is the industry story in this museum? It's very postal focused. So, as I'm selling the business, moving everybody to this other facility, getting our offices, getting our feet solid there, the museum had an opportunity for a contractor to come down and work on a big project called America's Mailing Industry, which is telling the story of the partnership between
Mhm.
the Postal Service and the mailing industry. And I applied for the contract, got the job, had to tell the guys that bought the business, you guys, what do I do? And they're like, go, do not look back. See you later. You're going to be fine. Okay. And this is a really positive move for you. So I look at that I probably wouldn't have done it if I had to think about it just myself, but they
Right.
gave me that little push that I needed. They understood, they had, better vision for me of what could be possible if I moved. So I moved down and I worked at the museum for almost 2 years on this project. And it's an online project. It's old. It needs to be updated. Hopefully, at some point, we will do that. But during that, I had the opportunity first to work with some incredibly brilliant people at the National Postal Museum, but also to start to work with people in the industry. So
Right.
to get their stories of how their company started, in the 1800s, early 1900s, to do direct mail, to ship packages, to work in partnership with the Postal Service over the years. And, some of these stories are incredibly emotional. There's a lot of nonprofits, and more than 10% of the mail that is out there is nonprofit mail.
Mhm.
So, how they use the mail to be able to fundraise and run their organizations, and provide benefits to people, that became just really, it really just struck home with me how much I loved this industry. And it was a lot bigger than just what the ROI was that I had seen when I ran my business. It was more about the history piece behind it.
Right.
So I stayed at the museum for about 2 years, and met so amazing people along the way, a lot of people from the Postal Service too. And then when that contract ended, the director had also gotten sick and he wasn't able to come back. And so that's kind of where the project ended for a little bit there. And then another opportunity opened up, and I was able to go work over at the Office of Inspector General. I started there as a contractor also, saw an opportunity and took that. And I built up with time a stakeholder relations path. And it allowed the industry,
Mhm.
mailers, and shippers to talk to the OIG audit teams and the researchers, and eventually the agents too, about what they do. So it would help provide a big wider frame for the work at the OIG. So because auditors deal with the Postal Service, so they
Mhm.
hear the how things work at the Postal Service, but it's important that they understand that there's this ecosystem around the Postal Service that's actually feeding that mail into the Postal Service or the packages. So that's kind of how I got to the Office of Inspector General. That was different, right? That's government work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's very different. Oh my
Yeah.
God, this is amazing. I have to pause and say that I'm really enjoying listening your story. And, listening to your story, Karen, one thing that really stands out for me is not just the scope of your experience, right? But also the strength and steadiness of your leadership throughout. And I love to pause here and talk about what it's been like to lead, particularly as a woman in this male dominating society or industry, right? What
Yeah.
opportunities, roadblocks you faced in your journey as a woman leader?
It's funny because I think back to that sometimes. Why it's such a great question, especially for our industry, because it is very male dominated. It's changed, and I look forward to seeing what some of the demographics come back from this most recent National Postal Forum.
Right.
But when I first started, I would go to meetings and I would be the only female in the room. Um, and it was very different, but I didn't really think about it a lot, to be honest. I
Mhm.
had an amazing father who always kept telling me, you can do whatever you want to do, as long as you're not a teacher, right? But he really pushed me into he did sales. He had a wonderful position, and he really encouraged me and my brothers to just keep exploring whatever it was we do. All of us went into sales, and actually, all of us have had our own businesses. So it's kind
Wow.
of interesting. Yes, a family of five that all have gone into that. No one became lawyers or doctors or like those kind of wonderful professions. We just always went out selling stuff to people. But at the end of the day, as I sat in those rooms, I was always comfortable. First, because the industry is incredibly welcoming, but also because I had grown up in such a male dominated world.
Mhm.
My neighborhood was all boys. There was like one girl and me. So it just kind of was always the world that I found myself in. And so I didn't really ever feel like I needed to do something that was to get ahead as a woman. It was more just to be able to allow myself to succeed and to figure out what those skills were. I've always said, talk less. Here I am talking away to you, but talk less and listen more. And really try to meet again people that are from a different space than the one that you're in. And that's what I learned by being in that more of a male dominated
Mhm.
environment. I mean, I'd go to association dinners, and yes, it'd be me and maybe one or two other women, and we kind of would cling to ourselves. But we realized that if we didn't talk to everybody and learn to raise our hands and speak up, that the room would not have another opinion in it. So it just kind of came natural. I think I was very blessed by the family that I grew up in, and that gave me the strength to be able to just not really use it as a tough situation, but more as just the way life is.
Right. That is
So
amazing. And, that's so much strength.
friend.
And I hear about your family, and I'm really feeling proud and happy
Yeah.
that this is the industry we're navigating in, right? And honestly, I have to say that I don't meet a lot of fellow women, but the whole industry in general is very welcoming and open, right? And you don't really have to fight your way through as a woman to do that, right? And I also agree. I think now that you said it, that you actually don't think about it so much until somebody asks you, right? You
Right,
just get
right.
used to it, and
Yeah.
you channel through it, and you walk your way through it, right? You don't really think about it so much. Um,
I like what you just said. You walk your way through it,
yeah,
which is what exactly instead of forcing your way through it, you're just kind of walking through it
right.
and just kind of observing and taking it and just putting your hand out, shake your hand and meet people and just realize that you're all in this together. I do wonder sometimes what it is about our industry though, because I used to run one of our association groups up in New England. I ran the New England chapter for it was MFSA at the time. And I had some speakers come in from the outside. And they pulled me aside before they spoke. They said, "We don't get this. Everybody's hugging and kissing each other." Like, what is this?
I know. It's
I said, I didn't really think about it, but we all like each other. And, we all had a lot of work,
Mhm.
especially back in the 90s and the early 2000s. We needed each other. I offloaded work all the time onto other shops. So knowing that you had somebody else that you could count on, that might have been what also allowed the industry to foster into the way it is. But it is, yeah, there's always a lot of hugging and kissing.
That's good.
We have a group, an association called WILDS, Women in Logistics and Development, that was started by a group of women here in DC, and it was to provide an opportunity for women
Mhm.
because logistics and delivery and even the postal ecosystem was mostly men, but now there's men that belong to WILDS too. We call them the Milds. Um, and they love it. They're so proud that they come. And we had a huge event. They sponsored an event at the National Postal Forum, and there were so many men that were in that room. So maybe
That's
that's kind of like a microcosm of what actually has happened to our industry, is that you try to start a female only group, and the next thing you know, the men, they're not crashing it. They're just kind of like, can we come
can
too?
we come?
Just
Yeah. That's amazing. I love that, right? And yeah, I think I have the same experience. I do want to mention something very important that you said. This is something I have to tell myself every single time, that your opinion matters, right? That if you're in a room full of people and you want them to hear you, you have to say it out loud, right? But yeah, I find that really good, and it was good reflection that you have to say it out loud.
We all know it, right? I mean, I remember going to a women in development luncheon in Boston for the first time, and I wasn't in development, but all my customers were going to be there. I had a lot of nonprofit clients, and they said, "You should be coming here. Your customers are here. You should come." And I remember being in the parking garage and thinking, I'm not sure I want to go in there. These are not people that I really know. Yes,
Right.
I know my customers, but they're on the panel, they're speaking. They're not going to be sitting having lunch with me. This is going to be hard. And I mean, I had been out in the working world for over 20 years when I was thinking this. And I thought, get out of the car,
Yeah.
go in, put your hand out, put your little badge on, and just meet some people. And I mean, I walked out of there going, I had so much fun. I probably was one of the last people to leave, right?
Right.
So I had so much fun. So I think it is important that we know that everybody else feels the same way, right? People even who look like they're like,
They
running the
just
whole
got it all
room,
together. Yes.
yeah, they still had to get up in the morning and put their best clothes on and their smile and get themselves, in a position to be able to enter and engage. So, yes,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So, Karen, your journey brought you to NPF, right? And what a year it's been. I want to pause again and say congratulations. I was at the conference and it was phenomenal, right? The highest attendance in 15 years, right? And
Yes.
so much energy and enthusiasm. Tell us, what was it like to lead this transformation?
Well, first, there's a team, right? There's a team with me, and just to frame it, the four people that are the staff members, the full time staff members, four, that
Oh,
doesn't count me. Um, they have been together for 30 years
oh,
running this organization. They have great experience either in finance or in running events, doing the exhibit floor, how you put together the presentations. It's and they built the company just like you building your business or I built mine. They've taken it from paper to what it is now. And being able to be around them was really incredible because they're so forthright in sharing things with you. There's no holding back. They want you to know everything. They want you to succeed. So for me, by the time we got to MPF, it was in my fourth month. I did start the middle of November because I attended a board meeting at that point, but my job officially began January 1st. And Maureen Goodson, who's been running the organization for as executive director for 13 years, but prior to that, she was the chief financial officer. So she's great with spreadsheets. I always kid her. She came out of the womb with an Excel spreadsheet in her hand going, I can read this. So that group really helped me be able to get where I got, because it was hard. It's a lot. The details that go into bringing something like this together, or putting something like this together, it was unbelievable to me how teeny tiny details mattered to people that were coming to attend the event. And everybody's anxious about what their presentation is going to be like. The National Postal Forum is a 501c3 education organization. We are not part of the Postal Service. We're a separate organization. Our job is to provide education for the mailing and shipping community. The Postal Service is our largest partner and also our largest customer. So, and almost 60 years ago, NPF was formed by a group of postal people and a group of mailers coming together to provide education. So education is the number one reason that people come together. But then you have the exhibit floor, which is also providing education. Trying to understand how that has been done it's just mind blowing to watch. I watched it be empty down there and then totally filled with people. So I think that when I look back at how did I get through that, it was just really by being able to observe. The staff was great at letting me just really try to figure out how this was all going to happen. And it probably wasn't until Thursday morning after the Wednesday night reception when I thought, I think I get this. It also helped the minute people started showing up, right? The minute on Sunday I saw people that I knew, I thought, they're here. This is all going to be fine. People are actually coming.
Absolutely.
And it was also an interesting year in the postal world. We've had we're on our third postmaster general right now in the 4 or 5 months that I've been in this position. So just really being able to step back and look at how the leadership has been able to handle the changes that are going on there. I think that drove a lot of the attendance to NPF this year, that people wanted to know what's going to happen. Will we have an announcement? It came, not long after NPF, about a week later, which was actually fine, because the people, instead of being disappointed that it wasn't announced, I think they found this opportunity to be collegial together and to think about how we can make the industry more exciting, what we can do that's innovative. But I heard about collaboration over and over again from people. So it was a wonderful opportunity for me to be able to have that kind of a momentum going while we were there. There was a student program, the Direct Effect program, that had over 100 students that are marketing students in colleges, and we had 18 colleges. It's a program run by the Postal Service. It's not an NPF program. It's a Postal Service program, and they wanted to bring it to NPF, and it brought so much energy. We were able to bring the students to the Monday morning keynote with the Postmaster General and the leaders, the Postal Service, and then also bring them onto the exhibit floor. They went over to the innovation lab that the Postal Service has. They couldn't get them away from there. So, and then they had two great clients. They had Geico and Chick-fil-A that they designed omni-channel marketing campaigns for. And then they had awards of which campaign was the best, selected by those two
Wow.
companies. So I think the whole thing together just felt there was a lot of energy, wasn't there?
It was a lot of energy. And I couldn't tell if it's just because of Nashville or there's so much going on at the NPF, but it was an amazing show.
But that's a good point, because Nashville is a great venue, and we
Yeah.
certainly embraced it with the entertainment that we did. So it is hard to capture. The National Postal Forum usually travels to small, large cities, if you want to
Right.
call them that, versus a Chicago or a Boston or an LA. So when you look at that, being at a place like Nashville is like the perfect opportunity for us. And we had that NPF's Got Talent program
Oh
on
my God.
Tuesday night,
Yes. That was
which
amazing.
was so much fun.
It
Yes,
was
yes.
so much fun. The whole energy, and it was phenomenal, right? The participation energy and the whole 3 days was really well run.
Thank you.
And congratulations again. I think We are still, I'm still thinking about it. It's been 2 weeks. We're back, but definitely it was amazing.
We had people we had like a little group that we met with. Mary Guthrie runs the exhibit floor
Mhm.
for NPF, and she brings together a group of people after the NPF. We met with them last Wednesday, and exhibitors, some first time exhibitors. We had a lot of first time attendees, first time speakers, first time exhibitors, and they told us that on Monday they already had all the leads they needed.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So
That
let's
is
hope those leads
amazing.
all turn into sales, right?
Yeah,
But they were very positive, and they said that's what made it so enjoyable too, is they didn't feel like they were scrambling and clawing. Like, whoa, people were coming really interested in what their companies did.
that's
So
amazing. That's amazing.
yeah,
Well,
thank you.
congratulations to you and your team again. I think it's job
Thank you.
very well done. Um, and I'm curious to know that now that you've had your first show, what do you think NPF stands for today? And what are your hopes for the industry going forward?
Well, it's an education conference, correct? People come to be educated. We know they come to learn how to network or to network, not just maybe learn too. Maybe that's a class we could offer to some of the new people in the industry. But they come to network. They come to hopefully make connections that will allow their companies to be able to grow. They also come for themselves. They come for professional leadership opportunities. The certificate programs are really big for people to go back with a certificate and say to their boss, here, this is what I learned at the National Postal Forum. And it gives them this gravitas they can put up on their wall and know that they feel more worth. They feel more worth at their job because they learned about how to design direct mail or how a mail center could be run in the world of AI. So I think that thinking about MPF and where it can go forward, we're right now getting ready to launch. We're working on what it's going to look like, a year-round education program, so that NPF will happen once a year still. But what can we offer to the mailing and shipping industry and to people beyond? How can we grow the mailing and shipping industry, not just in ROI that we all talk about, but in the depth of knowledge,
Right.
the academia kind of sessions that we could offer that will allow people to have year-round education available to them. What does the industry look like that's beyond just what we see at the National Postal Forum? How is the PRC structured? What is the Board of Governors like?
Mhm.
How does that all come together from a Postal 101, if you will? So that's our goal, is to be able to provide more high-level year-round education programs that will give people the ability to feel more valued, whether it's at their job or in the industry as a whole. So we're looking forward to that. If anybody's interested in talking to us about it, I would love to talk to them, because we're trying to figure out what that could look like. There's so many different industry sectors too that are interested, that come to us and say, can we have a track? Can we put 3 courses together? What
Mhm.
can we do? The international world that at NPF is very tiny. The people that are able to come and participate, and they would like to see themselves better represented at the National Postal Forum. So we're starting to explore what that could look like too.
That's amazing.
So we want to be
That's
inclusive. Want to be inclusive of all the people that could possibly be in our world, right, Swati? So
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. More the merrier. And I
yeah.
love the vision. I think it's amazing and it's gonna keep making this industry and the forum better and better every year. So I'm
I
really
hope
excited to
so.
see
I hope
what's next
so.
year.
Yeah. We already have someone who wants to exhibit. Like that was the next day. We were like, I want to be first for Phoenix. We're like, whoa. And I already had someone reach out and say, when can I start? When can I submit my presentation to be a speaker? So, we had a record number of submissions for the
Wow.
education workshops
Yes.
this year. We're only able to select so many. So a lot of those people, we were able to go back to them and say, hey, we couldn't select your session, but maybe you can co-present with somebody else that's in your industry group, or someone else in your company. So people put a lot of panels together. We saw great interest in doing that. And we had more exhibitors this year. That was a sold out exhibit floor.
It
That
was.
hasn't happened since 2002. So,
Yes.
so Phoenix is bigger. We will have more room in the workshop sessions, which were incredibly tight this year. And so Phoenix, big, lots of space to fill those rooms. And the exhibit floor is also bigger. So we'll be able to allow more people to come to exhibit than have to shut that off at a certain number.
That's
So,
amazing. Yeah, I think it's going to be incredible. I'm really looking forward to next year.
thanks. We are too. We need everyone to look forward, right? Phoenix
Absolutely.
is a great venue, and we want to just find ways to embrace being there in the sunshine. I could use some of that right now. So it's been raining in DC for a long time. So
So I hear, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
it's going to be great, I think. And the this year's forum is just a testament of that, right? That the energy, I think it's going to flow very well the whole year.
I
And
hope so. I really do. And the Postal Service was, as I mentioned, a great partner during all of this. We were really thrilled with that. So creating the synergy of finding out what are the kind of things that are important to their leadership moving forward, because we're going to have a change, right? So
yeah,
how will that be, and how do we support the people that are at the Postal Service that we work with on behalf of the National Postal Forum? There's a team that's devoted to working with us. So how do we make sure that the sessions that postal leaders want to present, as well as the employees of the Postal Service that submit workshops, what is important to them too? So I'm looking forward to it. I really am. I'm very excited about the education piece in the year round that we could possibly present for people.
absolutely. It's incredible. And it goes back to your first love, which is learning and education, right?
It was one of the main reasons why I was hoping to be able to be accepted for this position, because it was education at a full scale.
Right.
And that's that to work for a nonprofit educational organization is like a dream for me, that is committed to the mailing and shipping industry. So it's really taking everything that I've done over the years and pulling it together into one specific mission for me right now. So
Amazing. And you did a phenomenal job. That's,
thank you.
yeah,
It's a team.
always a team. Absolutely.
Yes,
It's
always
always
a
a team.
team.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Karen, as we close, I want to ask something reflective. If
Okay.
you could sit down with the younger Karen and getting off the fulfillment express off the ground, what would you tell her after all these years?
I would tell her that she needs to realize that first of all, having your own business is the only way to fly. So enjoy it, Swati. All right.
Thank you.
It's definitely fun. And I think I would tell her to just know that it all works out. That when those moments when you think, oh gosh, it's on me right now that there's a problem or there's an issue and how do I solve this, that it will all work out. And that pausing and reflecting and actually going with your gut a lot too. You're smarter than you think you are, right? We always second guess ourselves, third guess ourselves. So really just understanding that it will all work out, and really just try to be a very thoughtful leader, because that's going to be the thing that's valued the most, is that you're offering respect to people. So trying to be inclusive is important too. So I would definitely tell her that. And I think that's kind of how I've been since I was little, that I've always wanted everybody to be able to have the chance to play. It's always been important to me that, we all come from different places, as I've said. And I think that's one of the best parts of my whole life, is that I've been able to work with people from so many different walks of life, and to just really value that. The different moments that I've been able to gain from being with people that are not from where I'm from, but are from different places, and they can enrich my life. So I think I would tell her just to enjoy the ride. How's that? It's going to be
That's
okay.
cool.
I never would have dreamed she'd be where she is right now. She'd probably still be up in Boston running a mail house, but life changes. And to embrace that, right? To not
Yeah,
be afraid of changing course along the way. So
I love that. And that's
yeah.
beautiful. And what would you tell all the people who are listening today, especially the women navigating leadership? What do you hope that they take away from your story?
I hope they realize how important it is to join organizations, to join any chance that you have, to be able to go and network. And that might be a small dinner that you're invited to. Don't be afraid to ask another woman to have coffee. Most people want to be asked, okay? They want to be asked. It's flattering to have somebody say to you, I would love to be able to spend even 30 minutes with you. Could we have a call? Could we do this? And I think that people need to not be afraid of asking others for some guidance along the way. And that's what I would tell them. But I would also tell them to join one of the great associations that we have in our industry, to join your Postal Customer Council, anything you can to find a little place that you can have your voice be heard and not to be afraid to speak up, right? I mean, you've already
Abs-
mentioned that. That you think your voice doesn't want to be heard, but it's actually a pretty beautiful voice once it starts to get heard. How's that?
That's
So
beautiful. That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Karen. I can't tell you how much I have enjoyed my conversation today. And I hope we could just go on and on. I would love to keep talking to you.
me too. I feel the same way, Swati. This is
Thank
very
you.
therapeutic.
It is. It is. I honestly, this has been the best hour of my day today.
Thank
And,
you. For me
I
too.
love
So thank you. I'm honored that you asked to talk to me. And I really look forward to talking to you again. So I
absolutely.
don't want it to be the next forum. Okay.
No,
So
it's not going to
let's
be.
make a
I'll
point.
definitely reach out.
Yeah.
And, I do come to DC often. So I'll definitely ping you when I'm there and love to meet you. And I will also keep in touch and I'll have you again back at my show.
Thank you very much. And please do. I want to take you to the Postal Museum.
Thank you. I would love that.
Okay.
I'll
All
definitely take
right.
you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Bye-bye.
Been a
Okay.
pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.